Welcome to our third session of AT&T's Marketing Summit Series. I'm lucky to have so many colleagues here in LA with us today, and we have a chance to dive deep into the fifth and the sixth of our guiding principles. Don't you worry, if you didn't have a chance to watch the first four of those, they are available on our Atlas site. So you can see Kellen and Jenny Bell cover the first two, as well as Jana Dusic cover 3 and 4. But today, we're going to spend some time talking about our guiding principles around emerging innovation and our competitive edge. And I think we'll also probably talk a little bit about AT&T's purpose and maybe how we think about bringing that to life through all the things this incredible group does every day. I'm so lucky that today we have wireless and fiber products, we have marketing, we have research, analytics, and insight, we have advertising, and we have retail marketing. Now, we all might sit in different organizations, but the truth is we all carry the exact same business card after the same objectives. So really excited to hear everyone's point of view today on the opportunities coming out, in particular of purpose and those guiding principles. But thinking about that fifth one on emerging innovation, it would be right for us to shake up this marketing series and maybe do it a little differently this time. So we actually have an outside guest joining us. I would like to introduce PJ Vasquez. Come on in, PJ. Welcome to the group.
Hi. Hi, Val.
Welcome, PJ.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, should I call you PJ or should I call you Dr. Pedro Juan Vasquez?
You call me PJ, that's fine.
That is awesome.
People call me PJ or Dr. PJ or PJ Sinzuela, which is like my artist name.
Yes, your artist name. So, if you don't know PJ, let me give a little bit about you, but then I'm going to ask you to actually tell a little of your story because it's incredibly interesting. So, after receiving his medical degree, PJ broke into the music scene.
Yes.
Finding himself on Billboard's Hot Latin Songs, doing collabs with the likes of Bad Bunny. He's on the rising tide of pop culture when it comes to Latin music. So that's two sides of a story there. And in your free time, on your weekends, you also give back, nonprofits, working in the medical field. So PJ, you are highly demonstrative of innovation, emerging innovation, as well as keeping your cutting edge. So would you share with us for a few minutes a little bit about your background and story? Maybe tell us what Sinzuela means or where that came from?
Well, I'm PJ, nice to meet everybody. Great team. I'm from Puerto Rico. I've been making music since I'm like 15. But it was always a hobby. I wanted to be a vet at the beginning because my mom rescues dogs, and I've had like 50 dogs in my life. But I started in pre-vet, and I changed to pre-med. I studied biology, and then when I was doing med school in Puerto Rico, I started releasing songs through SoundCloud, and they started moving around. During Puerto Rico, we started doing shows, and when I graduated, I was invited to do a tour to open for Calle 13, which he's the guy with most Grammys in history right now. And I did that for a year. I was gonna take 1 year hiatus. I said, I'm gonna do music for 1 year and then I'll go back. That was 5 years, so I did 5 years of that. And then when the pandemic came and there were no shows, I was in my house doing music and doing like shows through Wi-Fi or from home, and I felt, man, I should be doing something about it. So I did my residency. I went back home to live with my parents, and I did a year of residency to finish my medical career. And after that, I've been doing free clinics and working with nonprofit. And I did my first album, which is called De Vuelta a Casa, which means going back home, because I had left when I was 17 and then came back almost 15 years later to my house. And now I'm just doing music, and I also work, like you said, I work once or twice a week or in emergency room, or I try to do like free clinics in Puerto Rico or in the Caribbean. So yeah, that's what I do.
What an awesome background. Tell us about PJ Sinzuela. Tell us where the name comes from.
PJ Sinzuela. Sinzuela means soulless, like without shoes. I was playing basketball, and I broke a sole off my shoe, and then my friends started calling me PJ Sinzuela, that's your rapper name, because I was just starting. I was probably like 20, 21, and I liked it a lot because I think that everybody is so focused on the shoes, but everybody has like a unique footprint, and everybody wants to leave with my music and with what I do. I want to leave like footprints, so huellas in Spanish, so that people can follow and leave a mark, and that's where the name comes, PJ Sinzuela.
Very cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, just to remind everybody, our 6 guiding principles. So we've talked about how to plan around the corner and for the customer. We've talked about trusting the data. We've talked about taking calculated risks. We've talked about hitting the short-term targets, but also keeping the long-term in mind. And today we're going to talk about embracing innovation and see it through learning from everything that we do. And then finally, creating competitive advantage, right? How do we keep that edge? By playing to our unique strengths. So thrilled to connect with everyone. Why don't we jump in? So PJ, I'll start with you.
Sure.
Because purpose seems essential to what you do, both in the medical community as well as how you formulate your lyrics and what you communicate and what you sing about. And purpose inside AT&T is really important, which is connecting people to greater possibility through expertise, simplicity, and inspiration. So maybe you could share with us, how do you connect the why and purpose to the kinds of messages that you put out, thinking maybe as an artist or even your medical
world?
I
think that the most important thing in music is connection. Like connection with fans and connecting with real people. I think that that's why I make music. And going back to working in a hospital for me, since I write all of the songs, having conversations with people, I talk about that in my music. So other than, I think that what's beautiful, it's the music that you're telling a story, but someone else listens to it and says, that's me. I think, I feel what he's talking about, or I think the same way. And for the music to have purpose, like the writer has to have a deeper voice or has to talk from personal experiences, which I think that I make my best music when I am connecting with family or with friends or with people who need me in the hospital. And people, like my fans, know when I'm working in a hospital because of my lyrics, which is something that's very different about the music that I make. Because I talk about everything, by the way. I have social issues in my songs, but I also talk about partying because I love to party. I talk about everything. I talk about my family. I say that it's like a newspaper. You have like the sports part, you have the important news, then you have like the sexy pictures. You gotta have everything, so yeah.
Sounds like you sing about what you know. Yeah, that's great. I'd like to open it up to this group. I am sure many of you have your own connectivity story, your why, that actually ties back to connecting people to greater possibility. Any of those stories come to mind for you about where you saw connectivity really make a difference, either for yourself or for someone else, that you might want to share?
So when I think of connectivity and what it allowed, an opportunity for me, my mother was in the hospital a few months back, and she's in Florida, and I'm out here in LA, and she was in a coma, and I wasn't able to make it out in time. But she woke up, and the day she opened her eyes, my brother was there, and I was able to FaceTime her and see her, and I was soon there the next day. But just having that opportunity to be able for her to see me the first day she was able to open her eyes truly was an opportunity. So when I think of connection and that we're able to have moments like that, truly it makes a huge difference.
Oh, KJ, that makes my heart swell. Thank goodness for that connectivity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hi, obviously we just came out of a pandemic, and like PJ, I play music, and I play locally around town, and that all shut down, right? There was nothing going on. And some of my musician buddies, some of them do it for a career and some of them don't, but we couldn't get together. So connectivity helped with us because we started doing it online. We started doing it, right there, writing songs, passing them over, we would get on FaceTime or whatever and just go back and forth with ideas, and then I'd record them, and then I would, pass them on to them, and they'd add their parts and give it back to me, and it actually really opened up, some new ideas as a result of that. So it was a way to get through.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
No, and I think that we take connectivity for granted, at least because now it's so normal, but this, about 20, 30 years ago when we didn't have like a smartphone or Wi-Fi was so accessible. And after Hurricane Maria passed through Puerto Rico, and I was in Ponce, which is like the south part of Puerto Rico. And we didn't have any signal for like almost 2 weeks. So my sister lives in Miami, and she wasn't in Puerto Rico, and my house, like in front of my house, all the trees fell, so we couldn't leave my house for like 3 days. And then we had to drive to San Juan, which is like an hour drive. When we got there and got connection for the first time, it's the first time, that was like 5 days after the hurricane. So the first time we could call like my sister and everybody who wasn't in Ponce, my grandmother was after 5 days after. So obviously when we called my sister started crying because nobody knew what was happening. Only in Puerto Rico, only San Juan had connection. So when you moved through on the way to San Juan, everybody was on the side of the roads because everybody who wasn't in San Juan was getting como que as soon as they had connection, they parked their car. And that's something that I think we take for granted because it's so easy to be connected right now. But when you don't have it, it's like, okay, you're desperate for it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that's pretty crazy. And in the music scene right now, I talk with like fans I was talking with Edgar, who told me like, yeah, my biggest fan like group, they're all from Chile. And I've seen them probably once, but from Chile, they do like, I send clothes to them, and they do like merch gifts for people who follow the page. And we've been connected, and we've seen each other once, like 4 years ago, and we still talk like weekly, and we're connected. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, cross countries.
Yeah.
Powerful. Well, the marketers in this room know the importance of, in addition to connectivity and its importance, the importance of being cutting edge, right? Staying one step ahead on tech, on innovation. It really does allow us to do a better job of even just connecting with our own customers. So PJ, I might start with you on this question. How do you innovate and keep your ideas fresh? As marketers, that is everything, right? So what do you do to keep your ideas coming and fresh?
I think that's something that you have to be looking out for every day because everything's changing so fast. At least musically, like every day I'm writing in notes in my cell phone and getting influences from billboards and what's happening. And also right now, obviously in the music scene, it's very important what's happening in social apps. So it could be trendy to use Instagram for 6 months, and suddenly now it's TikTok, at least in Puerto Rico. You see that TikTok has been getting huge. People are dancing, so you have to, even if you don't dance, you're like, okay, I gotta get people to dance my songs or jump with them or do something. So you have to be like really alert of what's happening and what you think is gonna happen after that, so that you could jump or be the first one to use those apps and grow faster and connect with everybody. Right now, it's the younger people who really are the ones who really start getting on these apps and make them trendy. I think like that age group from like 18 to 25 is very important because they're in college and they're all the time using their cell phones and being more connected with different types of apps. So.
Yeah, so staying up on the latest and greatest and using it yourself.
And there's so many.
There's so many, and they keep coming.
They keep
right?
coming.
Yes, they do.
There's one now, Be Real. I don't know if you guys have seen it. That's the new one. It's like another one. But I got it, PJ Sinzuela. You can follow me.
That's Nicely done. I saw that drop. So for my marketers in the room, what are you doing to stay fresh and keep innovative on that cutting edge? Share the techniques you're using in particular for our audience that might be watching this. They might pick up on some ideas of tricks of the trade you could be using.
You want to go first? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that the choice to be innovative is a daily decision that you have to make to go out and not to kind of hit it on the nose, but to connect with others and connect with those who have different viewpoints and not just settle for, the status quo, not to just settle for, this is what I'm doing day to day, and that's fine, but to go and make the daily decision to go out there, ask questions, meet new people, stay connected. And that, I think, is one thing that really sets a lot of our teams apart from other competitors.
And I think to add on to that is to innovate and set ourselves apart from the competition, talking to our reps, talking to our customers, hearing what they said about what's working, what's not working will really set us apart. So when we look back at our strategy for best deals for everyone, it's not this, outland, it's giving our new and existing customers the same deal, right? The same best deals. You see Lily talk about it, you see LeBron James talk about it, and so in our commercials, and just listening to customers, listening to our reps tell us those are some of the pain points, and addressing those things will help us innovate, will help us continue to innovate and set ourselves apart from the competition. And then making sure we do it consistently and keeping it simple for everyone to execute. We talk about our purpose, simplicity is a part of that, right? And so that strategy is panned out, and just continuing to evolve and continue to listen to customers and reps are gonna help us set ourselves apart from the competition.
I think also just being that fly on the wall, and it goes exactly what you were saying with listening, and you learn so much from hearing from other people, and then being able to ask those additional questions, how or why, and it just helps us kind of understand what everyone's thinking or what, their perspective and their view, which is so important.
I also have the opportunity to work with some great agencies and partners to help us find new creative ideas. And I think my friend here brought up a point, is you have to be intentional in looking out for these things. And so having those planning sessions where you're really bringing in creative minds to think about what your problem is, what you're trying to solve for, and really with intent look for those creative opportunities, see what others are doing. Like PJ mentioned, there's a lot of brand new content creators that are creating trending items and trending dances or new popular culture items. And so we also look at that because I get to work with a lot of our influencer marketing work that we do for Hispanic. And we're always on the lookout who's creating the greatest, latest content and how can we adapt that to our brand.
I think to add on to what was said earlier about asking questions and learning from our customers, outside of our day job, we are customers too. Go to the store, ask the questions, go to our competitor stores, see how your experience is, and take what you did like, what you didn't like, and bring that back.
So I think social media is another really amazing resource for all of us. And I mean, just thinking about some of the accounts I follow, they're so random. I follow Craftsman Tools, and I will tell you, I own a toolkit set from IKEA. So I have no business following Craftsman as a consumer. However, it's so interesting to see how these different brands, some that are so close to you and that you consume on a daily basis, and others that you may not really be familiar with, how they market. What are they doing? And I find so much inspiration from them, and especially when you look at who your customer is, right? Who is our customer? What is important to them? Tools may be that, right? Maybe it's building something with your kids on the weekend or this project. Maybe it's a new rapper that we want to follow. But I think it's trying to get in that too, put yourself in different shoes and see what are other companies doing that we can learn from.
And one thing I'll just add, just building off of what Shirley said as well, is we cannot look at our customers the same way. And I think that from the fiber perspective especially, someone who's making TikTok videos in their living room is different than the retiree who's watching their budget, for the rest of their lives. They have different connectivity needs. They're different people. So how do we adapt our product and what we offer them to appeal to who they are, what they're seeking, what they like? So I think for me, it's looking at the data, it's looking at the research, but then adapting our marketing and our product to really appeal to who we're talking to.
Yeah, I think a common thread after listening to everybody is just listening, and being an authentic listener, because the country is changing, things are changing, and kind of just speaking to people where they are and where they're at, and seeing those opportunities, because as you mentioned, each individual's difficulties or what they're going through or what they need may be different. For far too long, it's been one message, one sound, but that's not necessarily what works now, you know what I mean? So as we become more and more diverse, our messaging, our products need to meet the customer where they're at.
And I'll just add to the same theme. I think one of the ways that I like to stay innovative is staying on top of what other brands outside of our own industry are doing. So like the Toyotas of the world, the giants of like McDonald's, the retail industry, food industry. What are they doing to be innovative and learning from their practices, their messages, their creative, but also learning from what they are not doing. Within our industry, outside of our industry, I think there's a lot to learn from the giants of the world that are outside of telecom.
I would also encourage us to ask, what if? We are such hard critics in this company with each other, sort of challenging the ideas instead of building and saying yes, and we oftentimes will kill an idea. But if you start with that presence of what if, then the world is endless, right? You can build from that and build upon it. So asking that question more often sure would be a lot more fun. Other thoughts?
I was just gonna add, we've all talked a lot about listening, but if we're listening to the same things again and again, we're gonna get the same answer. So that I just wanna tie it back to like diversity and the importance of diversity. Otherwise you're in a sound box or whatever that's called. And also just, everything from seniority to age. The first thing I do at a family party, I find all the kids, I'm like, what app are you on? Who should I be following? Because I don't want to be, the creepy out of touch person who's like, so I'm like, I let them keep me honest. And at work, I would be like, where are the interns? Interns, please tell us, is this cool? Because we think it's cool, but it's not cool. And they're like, it's not cool. And if we don't listen, then we're going to be putting out bad work. So I think it's just, yes, listen, but make sure we're getting those diverse perspectives at the same time.
You are not the creepy out of touch.
I'm creepier than you.
No.
And to that what if scenario, Jen Robertson talks about progress over perfection a lot. And I really appreciate that because I've been with the company for 12 years now, so I've been around for a while, and there have been times where we may act like a more traditional company, but I feel like as of recent, over the past several years, we've been agile. We've been able to take some chances and take some of those what if moments and work towards progress. And if it's not working, tweak it, maybe pull back and then go further. So I think that's a part of innovation, is that progress over perfection and iterating on things to make it smoother and better for our customers.
I love it.
Yeah, on top of that, I work in the reward fulfillment space, and traditionally rewards were always reward cards. But this next year, we're doing everything. We're giving customers choice between multiple reward cards, doing targeted audiences. We're doing device offers. We're going to do a gaming offer. We're talking about doing value-added services. So, and my job is to make sure that those are all operationalized, but at the same point, make sure that they're all similar enough so the customer experience is great. So there is no pain point at the end of the game, right? So if I'm a customer and I'm getting a reward card and I'm also getting a smart home bundle, that the process for claiming that reward is the same. And it's make it easy for our customers, but also easy for all our stakeholders, like the agents. I mean, they have so many things to remember. So get the new ideas out there, test them, get them out there, but make it simple for everybody.
You make a really great point, and I think really intentional why that word simple is in our purpose is that alone is innovation, right? For us to get to a place where customers think of AT&T and say, yeah, they are simple. It's easy to do business with. It's easy to be a reseller for. It's easy to engage is powerful and leans right into that fifth pillar on innovation from what we need to do. So it's a great point.
And I think simple is so important. The other day, there was an app who wanted me to, I downloaded the app and just going into, just logging in, and that the password was so hard. It had to have space, it had to have a capital letter, numbers, a special character, and I was like, yep, I'm not using this app. Literally, I called them, I'm like, you gotta change that because you're gonna lose so many customers just because it's not simple.
Yeah. So PJ, let's talk a minute about keeping your competitive advantage. So the music industry is tough, right? You always got to stay one step ahead. I know in Puerto Rico, there's some natural competition that goes on.
A bunch of people.
Yeah, so how do you think about that competitive advantage in your world, and how do you stay one step ahead or work within it, right, to allow that to benefit you?
I think that competition, it's natural and it's good. I'm very competitive at everything. I used to play sports. Literally any drinking game, I'm like competitive too. Anything, I'm competitive. But in the music industry right now, I think that one thing that helps is being different and authentic, and doing things your own way is very important. I think that what keeps me ahead is that I do other things as well, because, well, in Puerto Rico, everybody raps. Like, there's 3 million people, like 1 million rappers, literally. And I think that one thing about competitiveness is that you need to know what's working for other people and what's not working, and then use it to your advantage. Oh, I like what he's doing, I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it my way, because if you do it the same way as another person, then they're gonna compare you guys, or people notice. Like, if you think you're smarter than everybody, you're wrong. Like, people are gonna notice those small details. So I think that seeing your competition and what they're doing, and then doing it your way, and putting your flavor to it, and your style or your own character, I think that's what I do. Also, what we were talking about, seeing other industries and getting good things from it and bad things that you don't want to do. That's what I do, at least in my music. And in the music industry, it's a little bit different maybe, because right now it's very competitive, but there's a lot of collaboration also. Like right at the beginning when I started doing music, I think the music industry was more like rappers were keeping their distance, and it was very popular to having disses with other rappers, like, and you dissed each other, and that's how you got your career to move forward. But right now, I'm dropping an album, and out of the 9 songs, 7 songs are with people who are doing music from Puerto Rico or from other places, Mexico, Chile, and a lot of collaboration, so that even you can help each other, because you have a public, I have a public, but in the music industry, I could share it with you. But you could have brands who have a public, I have a public. Why don't we share our public and our knowings, so that we could both grow together?
Yeah, so I hear you saying unique differences are key, and then interesting collaborations maybe that are unexpected could be viable.
Yeah, I think collaborations in music have a correlation to what we do. I mean, when you have one artist doing something, and together with a different artist, you create something completely new together, right? A different sound, or reach a different fan base. And when I've seen something similar with AT&T when we work with our partners. An example, Samsung. We work with them, and if we invite them into our planning, it's like, we're gonna release your new phone, and these are our marketing plans, and we want to do X, Y, Z. And when we did this for March Madness earlier this year, they had all these great ideas to come. And they said, what if we do that, and it's the yes and idea, and we give you money to do this more? And we're like, oh, this is great.
Yes,
You know,
and?
Yes, and let's keep going on this. And we've and since then, you know, that I think that's where you unlock some innovation, because they have experiences, they've worked with other partners, and you listen, you learn, and you see what's worked for them, and then together you create something new. It's the whole, you know, synergistic 1 + 1 = 3.
See, I think you could be competitive without putting shame on the competition, at least in music and in every industry. Like, you could do your own thing and be competitive, but you don't have to be like talking bad about the competition. It's better to be even collaborate and grow as a whole, because in Puerto Rico we say el bizcocho es grande, which means the cake is big enough for everybody. Everybody can have a piece. But if your competition makes everybody grow and find better ways, because you do want to be the best in what you do, in everything you do.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to marketing and competition, you might be in a position where you're going to say, well, I don't have the biggest budget. You know, Verizon or T-Mo, they're beating me completely in terms of the market spend and getting out there and share a voice. But you can still have some really powerful results by getting in the data, right? So getting that knowledge and getting the data back and trying small things here and there. The small things that you try with the limited budget that you might have can produce such great results that now you can expand it to something that'll be very efficient and bring in even greater results. So it's really about getting to the data. Data is power. And for us to be competitive, we need that data.
And one thing, I was just going to go off of PJ, what you said about purpose in a way, and really wanting to stand for something. And I think something that struck me about what you said and how it relates to AT&T is we all know we have really good products for the consumers, but I think what we are trying to do with the launch of Purpose is to show them that we also stand for more than just our products, and we are bringing something else to the world, and showing them that we are good people. We all know that we work with good people and we have good practices, but I think Purpose is showing them that we are trying to make good in this world beyond just the profits and the other thing that you know, other things that we're trying to do.
And just to add to Purpose, one way that I think that we can outpace our competitors is by truly understanding who our customer target is, and in an authentic way, so that if we really understand who our customer is, we can begin to connect with them. And I like what you said, PJ, early on. You said you connect with the patients and you listen to them and you talk to them. And the word that popped in my mind when you were talking about that was storytelling. And so I think that if we understand who the customer is, then we can begin to speak to them by storytelling and connecting with them in that, driving those two dots together in connection.
And I think in addition to knowing who our customer is, right, it's who are we? What do we stand for? What are our values? And I think that just makes everything else additive. If you know who you are, what your purpose is as a company, as a person, as a team, right, that's where the magic really happens. That's where you're able to find synergies. You're better able to represent your customer in a way that feels authentic. And I think authenticity is something in today's world, right, it's sometimes a little bit harder to find, but for those brands that are able to speak authentically to their base, you know it. It's not as hard to sell anymore, and it just feels good. And research shows that for companies that have that authentic and meaningful connection, customers love those companies, and I think that's just all you need to know.
No, and I think that now more than ever, with the power that you could search anything in the internet, like people want to get behind brands that do have a purpose and are eco-friendly or treat well their customers, or they treat well the people who work for the company. I think that now more than ever we see that how inclusion is very important and how diversity is very important, and people actually search for that. Is that company being inclusive? Is that company having diversity of age, of race, of everything? And I think that what you were talking about, being a company that has a good purpose and that it's based on good people right now is very important, because people want to use and be part of a brand that they think, oh, I'm in this brand, that's a cool brand because they're good people. So I think that's important.
And authenticity and meaningful difference is key. You know, brands don't survive if they don't have differentiation. And the consumers are much savvier, you know, than they used to be. You can't just, you know, sponsor a float during a pride parade and expect for, you know, the LGBTIQA audience to, you know, think, oh yeah, they support us, if you're not there every day. And, you know, that's where a lot of brands struggle, you know, with that meaningful differentiation. You know, what's interesting in our category, well, for mobility, is, you know, T-Mo has always been this value brand, and Verizon has always had these network benefits, and now T-Mo has really laddered up their network benefits. But now all the MVNOs, the cable companies who sell cell phones, are coming in, and they're saying, oh, we're fastest, and they're giving away service for 2 years or 1 year. And how can, you know, T-Mobile compete with that? You know what I mean? Because now T-Mobile is actually losing some of that differentiation. So a brand like AT&T, with all of its heritage, its innovation, really has the opportunity to stand out right now and have really embraced that meaningful difference.
And what you said, consistency. Like, people know when it's fake if you're just going to one parade and you only have one type of people working in your company just to appear like, oh, look, we're supporting, but people will know. So you have to be authentic and you have to be consistent with what you do and what you give out to the world.
And speaking of consistency, I want to just celebrate a little bit the wins that Hispanic segment has had on wireless for the last 28, 29 months now. It just keeps going. But the great news is we've been a consistent partner with the Mexico national team, our sponsorship there, at least 14 years. And we're just coming off of, you know, the greatest stage for soccer. And the match that was televised in Spanish language, the broadcast of the Mexico versus Argentina game, broke world records on viewership. This is when viewership of TV, live TV, is on the decline. So we have some consistency there, and now I'm reaching out to all my peers here. How may we together in 2023 continue to grow? This is a point of strength for us and our brand. We've now re-signed up with the Mexico national team. We've also signed up the women's Mexico national team here in the US, and we're going to be part of Leagues Cup. So we have a great opportunity to really stand out in soccer for us, and this is one way to do it, consistency.
And another thing, one of the things when you think about bringing it back to competitiveness is going consistency with a belief in something. And I think that's why our purpose is so crucial, because if you are trying to be competitive in a field, if you want to even just break it down, like I think you were talking about sports, you were very competitive growing up.
Yes.
I also played a lot of sports growing up. And if I didn't really practice and believe and was consistent with, you know, my passion behind the sport, you're not going to be competitive. If you don't really believe in what you're doing and believe in your purpose, you're not going to be competitive. The consistency then fails. So I think kind of having those two things in mind and having a purpose and believing in it and really being connected to it is something that is crucial when it comes to being in a competitive space.
That is so true. I couldn't agree more, and I have to tell my 7-year-old that every day when she's trying new things, because you try something, you may not be good at it at first, but if you practice, you get better, right? And if you've got passion for it, then please keep going, please keep trying, you know, don't give up. And we go through that like with everything, piano, soccer, math, everything that she does. So I love that you said that. I think it's such an important part of our community and the purpose that we're creating.
And just to add to what you guys just said now, I think there's something else we need to consider as we look forward to continuously try to change and innovate for the better, is that we have to preserve our strengths at the same time. And one of those strengths is a really strong element of trust that we have with a lot of the market. And our research really shows that, customers, competitive and current customers, really trust a brand like AT&T. So I think we need to preserve that trust in the market and at the same time try to innovate as we move forward.
All right, a question I'm going to throw out broadly to the group. PJ, you're included in this. So as marketers, you constantly have to feed to generate inspiration, right, for new ideas. And that is applicable whether you're talking about developing innovative pricing, promos, creative messaging, or it's around finding those unique differentiations that will give us that competitive advantage, that cutting edge. So what is it that you do personally to feed your own inspiration? What kinds of things do you do? Do you read? Do you listen to podcasts? What kind of actions do you take? Go ahead, since you're right next to me.
Well, Val. So this past year, our team has been great about following the conferences. And one of the things with COVID is that a lot of the conferences are virtual. So you can't be at the forefront of conversations of new technology that's available, seeing what other people are doing. Also looking at what's winning awards. Who is receiving commendment for great work that they've done, other brands, or if it's within our teams. And then also collaborating internally. Our teams, like the collaboration that I've seen happen within AT&T just over the past year, has blown my mind. Like the walls that have come down and the opportunities and conversations that we've had amongst other teams is really pushing the boundaries and pushing what we're doing and really making us innovate.
So I'll go. So one of my things is just breathe and take a moment, live your life, and then stop and pause for a moment and reflect and really jot down, like, what did you learn? What is your takeaway? And reiterate or recreate that and just be inspired for that kind of creativity. So pausing and taking a moment and stepping back sometimes gives you a little bit more of a reflective moment.
I'm going to add one more thing. Something my team does that is super helpful. We all get emails from different agencies or different groups telling us new reports of consumer trends and things like that. There's so many out there, and you don't have time to read them all. But one thing our team does is sometimes somebody will says, hey, this report just came out. I'm going to go through it, and I'll send you the Cliff Notes. And so they share it out with the team, and so that's one way we stay on top of some of the trends. We don't all have to go and read the same article because we get the shortcut Cliff Notes from our friends.
And to add to what you just said, I mean, we work with a lot of great research partners in our team, but it's always good to kind of reach out to new potential partners just to get a fresh perspective on our work. So I think it's good to every now and then take a calculated risk in finding someone else who's a good fit to work with us, and that's an effort our department has been doing this past year.
So from a personal standpoint, because you said personal, sure, may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I personally read earnings transcripts for fun at nighttime of other companies that just reported out. And reason being is it's really interesting to hear other CEOs of other industries, the Q&A from the analyst section and others, hear what are people talking about? What are some of the pain points other companies may be seeing? How are they addressing them? And it may sound boring, but it actually helps spark some ideas at times that will help us as a company move forward.
Love that. There's no shame in borrowing a great idea from someone else and making it applicable to you.
Yeah, I think being out there, what you said about being in a family party and asking like everybody, what are you doing differently? Like the kids, the teenagers, then people who are working, students, even grandparents, like, what are you doing? How can you use Netflix? No, yes. How do you use it? Teaching them how to use it. Because I taught my grandmother how to use Netflix, and now she uses it. Even Instagram, she likes my posts and stuff. And but other than being out there, I think that also always being, at least I'm always looking for, I don't think, some people tell me like, do you get like the muse to write music? I don't think that just comes like people think. I think that if you're every day you're looking for it, then one day it's there, another day it's not. But if you're just waiting for to come, it could be once a year. But if you're searching for it every day, at least once weekly, I can write a song. So. Good. Or do something different.
Yeah, just to kind of play off what you were saying a little bit, and what I've heard, I think, throughout the conversation for this entire time, is that personally, for me, something that I like to remind myself daily is that these customers that we work with, they're normal people. There are moms, there are dads, there are grandparents, there are children. Yeah, well, no, not really, but not mine. They're young. But, you know, these are humans. They are humans, and I feel like that alone, and kind of going back to taking some time to stop and reflect on those sort of like ideas and notions, can be inspiring in itself.
So 3 years ago, my husband and I decided to give, well, there's one of the Christmas gifts that we give each other every year is the master's class. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but we love it. We'll listen to Chris Voss. I think he's listened to 100 times, but there's a lot of different things from marketing to cooking to gardening, everything possible.
Gangster gardener. That's the first thing I did when pandemic hit. I
Did you?
paid for the master class, yeah.
It is by far, it's something I enjoy. I listened to it on my way here today. If I'm at the gym, I'll listen to it. So that's one thing that we do as a family. And my kids also have access to it, which has been great. But from a team perspective, during the pandemic, we put something on every Friday at 1 o'clock, which was called Decompress. And it's just a time for us to all get together and we talk about anything and everything. We've talked about Jared from State Farm versus Lily and our perception. You know, just we'll talk about Star Wars, and there's some major Star Wars fans on our team. So we've talked about anything and everything, but I think it really just kind of helps us connect on a lot of different levels, and then also you get to know your teammates, especially because we're not in the office together all.
And to add on to that, and what Erin said, is taking a moment to take a breath. I commit to myself every day. I step away for 10-15 minutes and I go outside. We live in LA, it's beautiful weather. But being in this COVID environment for 2.5 years now, working from home, I found myself sitting at my desk from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., like not moving, and it really took a toll on me. And so I just make that commitment every day, whether it's at noon, on a lunchtime, I take that 15 minutes, because we're not in the office, going from office to office, getting our steps in, or going, to different floor levels. So I go step outside, I get that walk, and I don't put any music on. I just enjoy the beautiful weather, and that's my moment to reset. So when I go back up to my desk, I can mentally get back into the work. And then also touching on collaboration, I think Kristen, you mentioned this, I think as a company and organization, we've gotten so much better at opening those doors and connecting with other teams and not working in silos with just ourselves, because I think especially in this work from home environment, at first it was challenging because we were all by ourselves in our own homes working on our own projects. And so we're now utilizing our tools that we have access to and our connection, our way that we can connect with one another. And for me, that brings me inspiration. Working with other team members and learning and listening to others' ideas, that sparks other ideas. So when we're talking and having conversations, I've already learned and picked up so much from this conversation. So listening, that creates more ideas. But it starts with a small idea, can really expand with diversity of thought, so in collaboration.
And I think trusting yourself. What you were saying, your customers or fans, they're just like people are more connected than we think. That's why stand-up is so funny, because he's talking about his experience, but suddenly he says something that you think that you're the only one who's going through that. But then it's funny because he's going through the same thing you're going through. So studying yourself and trusting yourself, taking a break to relax and be como I find this part hard to use, or this is hard to read. If it's hard to read for you or it's hard to use for you, there's gonna be other people who feel that way. So trusting what you think can be better or what you can change. I think that trusting what you think is gonna help you change things for the better and for other people.
These are excellent ideas to feed inspiration. And if we are supposed to inspire our customers, part of our purpose, I think we as marketers have to be inspired first. So I love this wealth, this treasure trove of ideas, of ways to tap into that. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. Incredible conversation. PJ Senzuela, thank you for joining us today, adding some new flair to our Marketing Summit series. So clearly we covered off on our number 5 guiding principle and our number 6 guiding principle. So emerging innovation, as well as that creating that competitive edge, right? Advantage that we want in the marketplace. We've talked a lot about purpose, the power of connection. Super excited to see how we all lean into that and really bring that to life moving forward and out to the world, not just internal, but rolling that out further. And then, the importance of the work that we do being fueled by inspiration. Got to inspire ourselves so that we're able to take that to our customers. So after today's conversation, this will obviously be available on the web, but if you have not had a chance to see the prior 2 series, they're out there on Atlas. You can watch the first series, which has our 2 guiding principles, or the principles 3 and 4. That is in the series number 2. And plug, the Marketing Summit series will come back again next year in 2023. So watch for the next ones in Q1. Thank you, everybody from LA, for joining. Amazing.